we said that once we come back, we are going to look into events. Now, I would consider events to be the most important phase of JavaScript learning. Why so? You will find it out very soon. So, what is an event? Event is basically some activity, okay, which occurs on the result of some activity on the page. Example could be user clicks on a link in a page, or it could be a button click, or when the page is finished loaded into the browser, or it could be a mouse cursor entering into a specific area, or it could be something related to time. You're counting on time based on the elapse of the time you want to trigger a different activity altogether, or it could be as simple as when you submit a particular form, you want to do a lot of validation. So we are going to see a couple of these things and check as to how JavaScript helps us in accommodating these events, and how can I make my pages very interactive because of these events getting triggered. So what we have is something called as a event handler, which is a segment of code, usually a function, which executes based on the event. Now the browser listens to these events happening. Whenever they happen, they trigger a different function which will get executed. Say for example, now here I have one reference. It says that okay, this is a reference page I need to go to. On click, it says alert by. Okay, so on click of this particular link, it is going to say buy, and then you will be proceeded to the reference page which is listed over here. So likewise, you have different event handlers on change. In case a value is changed in a specific field, if at all you want to trigger something, trigger a function based on that, you can go about doing it. Or in case you change the value in the drop down list. If you people remember, initially we did talk about a particular example where whenever I changed a value in one particular drop down list, say for example country, immediately it would trigger a whole set of activities where the states of that particular country will be loaded in the below drop down list. Likewise, if you change the value of the country to something, then again there will be a trigger which will get the values of that particular states of that particular country, and it will get download. It will get inserted into the drop down list of the states drop down. Okay, so on that, in that particular example, on change would be very predominantly used. On click, it could be a link or an image or a form element which is clicked once. Based on that, again, you can actually call a function. On double click, you can define mouse down, mouse up, on load, on submit, on reset, that is on form reset you can do. On submit is one another very important uh, event handler which is again very much in use. We are going to see quite a couple of examples where we are going to make use of on submit. Okay, so if you want to have a complete list of all the event handlers, please visit W3 Schools, and in which you will see a whole list of event handlers based on which you can go about coding. So here is an example for on click. On click, so as it states, there is a link over here, students access only. So when it is clicked, okay, it checks whether you are a user or not using the confirm function. If you say yes, then you will be allowed to see this, that is, you will be forwarded to the reference.html. Otherwise you will be left alone in this particular page itself. Similarly, I have another onload event handler where on loading of the whole page it shows an alert, on unloading of a page it shows another alert. But please be uh, careful about using on unload. It directly depends on your browser settings. Sometimes it might work, sometimes it might not work. So here is another function on submit. So as I mentioned, on submit is a very important event handler, which using examples also we are going to see as to how it basically works. So as you can see, in the head tag, we have described a JavaScript function where the validation of all the HTML fields, the widgets which we have used, will get validated across over here. It depends on the return value of this particular function validate. If it returns true, probably I'll take certain action. If it returns false, I'll take some other action. So how does it work? So here is a form described, action message board, meaning to say if the validate function returns true, once this particular page is submitted or the form is submitted, it goes through the validate function, sees or checks for every field which needs to be validated. If it returns true, then this form will proceed to message board and continue with the rest of the items. If it returns false, it will be remaining in this particular page. So as it says, if on submit event handler returns false, data is not submitted. On reset, event handler returns false, form is not reset. Okay, so let us quickly look at an example and see as to how this works. So here we have a example for form validate. Let us look into the HTML part of it. In HTML part, as you can see in the body, there is a form which is defined where I'm asking basically for a test.cgi file to be executed based on the submission of this particular form. Okay, on submit, that is event handler, what I am calling is a validate function. Okay, so it has fields like name, email, zip code, country, and I need to select any one of the country in this particular list, and there is a submit button. So on submit of this particular button or the form, then it triggers the validate function to get executed, where I am going to check if the value of the name is empty, then there is going to be an alert, and once it is shown, the focus will be placed back on the name field. Similarly, the same case with email. Then I'm going to check for the zip value. I'm checking for whether it is present or not, whether it is not a number. Basically, I want only the numbers to be present in it, and the length should be limited to 5. Okay, if not, then I'm going to present an alert with this particular form. Then I'm going to check for the country value for -1. If it is -1, so basically they have not selected any country, so I'm going to alert them with the message, please provide your country. Let us run this particular example and see as to how it works. So when I run this particular example, as you can see, it has given me a small form which has name, email, zip code, country. Okay, let me submit without without entering any value over here. So immediately the first alert pops up which says provide your name. So let me go about providing my name. Email. Okay, I'll not provide anything. Let me check what happens. Again, the function is called. The first part of the function returns to be true, fine. But when it proceeds to the next one where it is checking for the email, it says email has to be provided. Let me just give it as A. See if it works. Should work. Yes, it is accepting the email, but it is giving a alert message for zip. But you might actually see email is not actually email. But in my next example, I'm going to demonstrate to you as to how to take care of this particular problem. Now it says that it has to be 5 characters. Okay, I don't know what characters it is accepting, whether it is alphabets or numerics. Let me go about typing in alphabets A, B, C, D, E. So it is 5 of it. Let me click on it. So it says no, still the problem exists. Please provide zip in the format of so and so. So looks like it is not accepting the characters. So I should go about giving the numbers. So I'll check with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Is it possible? Probably it will accept. Yes, it says now please provide your country. So it is accepting the numbers but not accepting the characters as was described in our JavaScript function. Now it is asking for the country. Let me select the country, which is India, and submit it. So when I click on this particular submit, I'm sure there will not be any errors. The whole form was submitted, but I do not have any of the test.cgi file in my web server, so that it gives about authenticating or continuing further with the results of this. Okay, let me take another example. It's a much bigger example, and since it's a much bigger example, there are more values in it as well as more description for it. So let us run this particular program. Afterwards we will look into the code part of it. So when I start this, it's going to provide me with a very nice registration form with CSS also coming into picture. So it asks for user ID. So when I say user ID could be ABC and click on submit, it says no, user ID should not be empty and length should be between 5 to 12. So since length is less, I will say I will enter DE as well. Now it says it should not be empty and length between 7 and 12, which is supposed to be the password. So user ID it has taken. Okay, now I'll enter the password. I'll enter the name as well. It says username must have alphabet characters only. So meaning to say it is checking for whether it is a number or an alphabet. So I'll go about giving my name. I'll give the address. Basically here it should take both alphabets as well as numeric values. So I will say 1 comma then SUD, then I'll click on submit. It says your address must have alphanumeric characters only. Oh, looks like it is not accepting the special characters in the form of comma. Space it is not accepting that. Now it is asking me to select the country. So I'll select the country. In the zip code I'll present characters. It should check for it, numerics only. So I'll say 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9. Say submit. It says no, it's taken the zip code. There is no limitation on the length, but it says you have entered an invalid email ID. So let me just check with A. Yes, it is invalid. So here it is basically checking for @a.com. I'm sure now it is going to accept it. So how is this basically working? We are making use of something called as regular expressions in this particular example in order to check for all of this. So let us go back to the source code of it, and there are quite a few differences in this particular example. As you can see, I have a CSS file linked to it. Good. Then I have the script, that is a JavaScript. The whole of the function, the whole set of function is returned in include.js, okay, which is my include file, which has got all the functions which I require. Then I have the registration form. So here in the body I am checking for a event on load. On when this particular function is, when this particular body is loaded, it is going to call this function, JavaScript function, which says document.registration.userid.focus. Where is user ID? This is a user ID, so the focus will be placed on user ID. Okay, so you have the user ID, you have the password, username, and all the other different other HTML tags which is used to show the registration form. Then you have the submit. Okay, so when you click on this particular submit, what happens is the validate function gets called. Well, how? So you have defined a form over here, you have given a name to it, registration, and you're calling on submit return form validation. Where is this form validation? Form validation is part of the include.js file. So include.js file include.js file has the whole list of all other things, and it also has form validation. So in form validation, it is basically checking for it has created multiple other functions like password ID validation, all letter, alphanumeric, collect country select likewise. And when it goes to each one of it, it is going to check for, here it is checking for the length of it, here it is checking for the password validation, here it is matching against a regular expression that it has to be only letters, and here again it is checking that it has to be only between characters, and it has to be alphanumeric, that is characters and alphabets only. Likewise, here it is checking for the default value whether it is country is selected or not. Similarly, here it is checking only for the numbers for the zip code. And here is another example where it is checking for the whole list of words followed by at. Then again you have expression which talks about the words. Okay. So after checking all this, it is going to return either true or false, based on which this particular function, it's going to return either true or false. If it returns true, good. If it returns false, then the form will stay in the client side, it will not be submitted to the server. So uh, forward and transmission data which is used for this form submission will definitely be lessened when you do the form validation in the client side alone. So we have seen the example of form validation using this. We have also seen the different other forms through which we can go about using the event handlers. Finally, here is a list of all uh, useful methods which could be used with string objects. Like you have a property for string called as length, which we used for arguments.length. Similarly, I can use it for strings as well, which is going to return the return with the number of characters which are there in the string. Then if I want to check what is the index of a specific what is a character in a specific index, I can make use of character at. If I want to convert between uppercase to lowercase, I can make use of any of these two functions, to uppercase or to lowercase. If I want to find a substring which is beginning with a specific index, then I can use this. If I want to find a substring between a specific start and an end index, I can use this. If I want to find the index of a string, its first occurrence, then I can make use of index of. Okay, so with this we come to the end of JavaScript tutorial, and I wish you all the best in your internship program. Thank you so much.